Imagine you have just spent, I don't know, months, maybe even years, perfecting this incredible, completely secret $1 million recipe in your kitchen.
Oh, yeah, the passion project.
Right. It is a total game changer.
Yeah.
The kind of thing that could entirely revolutionize the culinary world. But then, right after you pull the ultimate prototype out of the oven, you leave it on the counter, walk away, and leave the kitchen door completely wide open.
Just an open invitation.
Exactly. Anyone can wander in, taste it, figure out the ingredients, and start selling it right across the street. And that is exactly what you are doing if you try to bring a brilliant product to market without securing a patent.
It's a painful scenario, but I mean, it happens constantly. You pour your absolute soul into research and development only to just hand the commercial reward over to the first competitor who, notices your success.
And that is our mission today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're taking a really close look into the absolute necessity of the patent process. We are going to explore how you get from that initial, light bulb moment in your head all the way to creating a legally protected, highly profitable asset, something that can actually survive on store shelves.
Yeah, the real physical market.
Right. And for this, we are leaning into this amazing step-by-step guide from Retailbound. It's a channel management consultancy founded by Johann Jacob, and their entire focus is bridging the gap between a product creator and the actual retail buyers.
Which is huge.
It really is. They help brands launch in over 150 major retailers across the U.S. and Canada.
And, well, when you are dealing with retail at that massive scale in that many locations, intellectual property isn't just an afterthought. It is the very foundation of the entire enterprise. We often think of patents as a purely legal mechanism, right? Like some dusty piece of paper filed away in a government office somewhere. But in reality, they are a fundamental business tool. They are the bridge that connects raw innovation to long-term commercial viability.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we get into the heavy machinery of how you actually navigate the patent office, we really need to look at why inventors put themselves through this gauntlet in the first place. I tend to think of a patent as like a VIP bouncer at an exclusive club.
A bouncer? How does that translate to intellectual property?
Well, think about what a bouncer actually does, right? First, there's the defense. The bouncer stands at the door and keeps the riffraff out.
Okay, sure.
A patent grants you exclusive rights for a set period, safeguarding against unauthorized use. So no copycats allowed inside. You get a competitive edge because your product is definitively unique on the market. But then there's the offense.
The offense, right.
Yeah. The presence of that huge bouncer signals to the high roller investors that the VIP section is exclusive, secure, and most importantly, worth dropping money on. It's a magnet for capital.
What's fascinating here is that it's a decent analogy for the outcome, but we need to look closer at the mechanics of that, that magnet. What's actually happening with investor psychology there?
Right.
Because an investor is rarely just looking for a cool idea. In venture capital or retail expansion, cool ideas are kind of a dime a dozen.
Yeah, everybody has an idea.
Exactly. What an investor is actually evaluating is risk. They are looking for a legally protected asset that guarantees a completely safe environment for a return on their investment.
So they aren't funding your genius, they're basically funding your monopoly.
Precisely. If you pitch a brilliant, unpatented product, a savvy investor immediately sees a glaring vulnerability.
The open kitchen door.
Yes. They know that the moment your product gains traction on those 150 retail shelves we mentioned, a larger competitor with a massive manufacturing infrastructure can just swoop in. They reverse engineer it and flood the market at a way lower price point.
Well, yeah.
The patent is the legal moat that prevents that. It transforms a passion project into a tangible property right that can be bought, sold, licensed, or even borrowed against. Without it, your brilliant idea is essentially a very generous donation to the public domain.
Which is terrifying when you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I want you listening right now to think about your own $1 million ideas, realizing that without this legal armor, your idea is just public property.
Yeah.
It totally shifts this whole process from being a bureaucratic headache to being step one of your business plan.
Step one, absolutely.
So assuming we don't want to donate our genius to the world for free, the immediate next step is figuring out how to categorize that idea.
Yeah.
Because from what I read in the source, if you apply for the wrong type of protection, you are basically just burning cash.
That is a critical juncture. Categorizing your invention correctly is paramount, mostly because the different lanes of protection serve entirely different strategic purposes.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting, because generally you're looking at three main types. You have utility patents, which protect the functional aspects of an invention, basically how it works.
Correct.
Then you have design patents, covering the ornamental design, how it looks. And finally, plant patents, which are granted for entirely new, asexually reproduced plant varieties.
Which is a bit of a niche, but yes.
Yeah, but when I first looked at this, I thought about, say, building a revolutionary new car.
Okay.
The utility patent is for the groundbreaking new engine under the hood. The design patterns for the iconic curves of the body shape. And the plant patent is, well, the genetically modified fern I put in the cup holder.
Yeah, I see where you're going with the car, but let's maybe drop the fern. It's a bit too neat and tidy. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the reality of intellectual property is far messier, and that's where the real danger lies. You separate utility and design as if they're always distinct, right? Like an engine and a hood. But what happens when the design actually is the utility?
Wait, what do you mean? How can the way something looks be the way it works?
Think about the tread on a high-performance tire.
Okay.
The specific geometric pattern of that rubber, the visual design of it, is exactly what channels water away to prevent hydroplaning, which is the utility.
Oh, wow.
Or consider the aerodynamic shape of a sports car. The curve isn't just there to look pretty, it directly reduces drag and improves fuel efficiency. This is a massive gray area in patent law.
Okay, so if I just file a design patent for my tire tread because it looks really cool, what happens?
You've just created a massive loophole for your competitor.
Right.
A design patent only protects the ornamental appearance.
So they can just change how it looks.
Exactly. A competitor could analyze your tire, figure out the functional fluid dynamics behind your tread pattern, and design a tire that looks slightly different but achieves the exact same water displacement utility.
And my design patent does nothing.
It wouldn't stop them at all. This is why understanding these categories is so incredibly vital. You often need overlapping patents, a utility patent for the method of displacing water, and a design patent for your specific visual iteration of it, just to truly lock down the asset.
Man, if you misunderstand that, you could spend thousands of dollars protecting the entirely wrong thing.
Easily.
Which brings us to the actual gauntlet.
Yeah.
Let's say you've categorized it right. You know you need a utility patent. Securing it requires running this intense obstacle course where a single misstep can literally cost you everything. And it all starts with the search.
Yes, the prior art search. This is arguably the most crucial step before you ever draft a single word of an application. You are establishing originality. But, people often completely misunderstand what this means.
Right, it's not just doing a quick Google search to see if you can buy it on Amazon.
Definitely not. Prior art encompasses literally any evidence that your invention is already known.
Anything at all.
Anything. That could be an existing patent in the U.S., but it could also be a foreign patent filed in Japan 20 years ago.
Wow.
It could be an academic paper published in some obscure Russian engineering journal.
Yeah.
It could even be a public demonstration. If someone else documented the core mechanism of your invention before you filed, your claim to novelty is just dead.
It's like doing your homework before a massive presentation. If you stand up and proudly declare you've invented this amazing new machine, and someone in the back row holds up a diagram of the exact same machine from like a 1985 textbook, you're just done.
It's an expensive embarrassment. Thorough searches require specialized software and expertise to really comb through technical classifications, which is why getting professional guidance at this stage, like from Retailbound's network, is so indispensable.
Makes sense.
But assuming your search actually comes back clean, you move to drafting the application. And this is where the real legal architecture happens, specifically in drafting what are called the claims.
Claims. This is a term that gets thrown around a lot in the source material. What actually is a claim in a patent application?
Think of it this way. If your patent is a piece of real estate, the claims are the exact GPS coordinates of the fence line you are drawing around your property.
Okay, the boundary.
Yes. The written description might talk about the beautiful house and the landscaping, but the claims define the literal legal boundary. If a competitor steps 1 inch inside that line, they are infringing.
So you want to draw the biggest fence possible.
Right.
You want to claim as much territory as you can.
That is the natural instinct, but it's a very dangerous game. This is the central tension of patent law. Broad versus narrow claims. Let's say you invent a totally new type of chair.
Right.
If you draft a broad claim that simply says, a device for sitting, comprising a flat surface and 4 legs, the patent office will instantly reject it.
Right, because prior art, literally every chair in human history already does that.
Exactly.
Okay, so you have to be super specific. Something like a A chair with 4 legs, made of carbon fiber, featuring a cup holder angled at precisely 15 degrees, and a built-in seat warmer.
Right. You could draft that extremely narrow claim, and honestly, the patent office would likely approve it very quickly because it is incredibly novel. But you've just built a fence that is entirely useless
Wait, why? I got the patent. The bouncer is at the door.
because your claim is so hyper-specific. A competitor can look at your patent, manufacture a carbon fiber chair with a seat warmer, but angle their cup holder at 16 degrees instead of 15.
You've got to be kidding me.
Nope. Because they didn't meet every single element of your narrow claim, they aren't infringing. They just bypassed your entire legal moat with a 1-degree adjustment.
That is maddening.
It is an absolute art form. You have to draft claims that are narrow enough to avoid existing prior art, but broad enough to actually capture competitors who try to make those minor, insignificant tweaks.
So what does this all mean? Once you have this perfectly balanced application, you submit it to the patent office. And this is where the real scrutiny begins. They evaluate it based on 3 main criteria: novelty, usefulness, and non-obviousness.
Yes.
Now, usefulness makes sense. It has to actually function. Novelty makes sense. We just talked about the prior art.
Oh, sure.
But non-obviousness. How do you legally prove that an invention isn't obvious?
It is consistently the highest hurdle in the entire process. The legal standard isn't whether it's obvious to the average person on the street. The standard is whether it would be obvious to a, quote, person having ordinary skill in the art.
Okay, so if I invent a new microchip, the patent examiner is going to look at it through the eyes of an average electrical engineer, not my grandmother.
Exactly. And the most common trap inventors fall into here is the combination of existing elements. Let's look at a really simplistic example just to ground the concept.
Sure.
You cannot just take a standard toaster, superglue a digital clock to the side of it, and claim you have invented a revolutionary, patentable new machine.
Right, because any appliance engineer could have thought of that.
Yeah.
Just 2 existing things doing what they normally do, just, sitting next to each other.
Correct. It doesn't create a surprising or unexpected result. It just creates a toaster that tells time. But let's elevate that to a real-world scenario where millions of dollars are actually at stake. Look at the pharmaceutical industry.
Okay.
Let's say a company wants to extend their monopoly on a drug, so they take a well-known painkiller, combine it with a standard dose of caffeine, and try to patent the combination as a brand new wonder drug.
Is that obvious? I mean, coffee and ibuprofen both exist.
It is heavily scrutinized. The examiner will argue that it is entirely obvious for a pharmaceutical chemist to combine a painkiller with a mild stimulant to increase efficacy.
So they reject it.
Usually, yes. To overcome that rejection, the inventor has to prove a synergistic effect. They have to prove that the painkiller and the caffeine, when combined, create an unexpected chemical reaction that is fundamentally different or vastly superior to simply taking the 2 drugs separately.
Oh, I see.
It has to represent a genuine leap forward, not just a logical next step.
Improving that leap forward requires a lot of arguing with the patent office, doesn't it?
Yeah.
From what I understand reading the Retailbound guide, getting rejected isn't the exception. It's basically the rule.
Absolutely. It is highly, highly unusual for a patent to be granted on the first try. You enter a phase of what they call office actions.
Office actions.
Yeah. The examiner sends you a detailed rejection, usually citing some prior art you didn't find, and arguing that your claims are either obvious or way too broad.
That just sounds exhausting. Just getting rejection letters from the government and having to pay lawyers to fight back every single time.
It can be daunting and quite expensive, but you really have to understand the underlying mechanics of this negotiation. That intense scrutiny is actually a feature of the system, not a bug.
Oh, so?
Well, remember, a patent is a government-granted monopoly on a piece of the economy. That is immense power.
Right, you get to be the only one selling it.
Exactly. The examiner's job is to protect the public domain from unwarranted monopolies. They're supposed to push back. It's a negotiation where they try to squeeze your claims down as narrowly as possible, and you and your attorney argue to keep them as broad as justifiable.
So you're finding the exact perimeter of the fence that both sides can finally agree on.
Precisely. And this rigorous filtering protects the integrity of the market overall. It ensures competition isn't stifled by trivial patents, while immensely rewarding true, significant innovation.
And what a reward it can be. We've talked about the grueling nature of this gauntlet, the searching, the drafting, the intense negotiations over claims. To understand if all that stress is truly worth it, We have to look at the empires built on the other side of this process.
Oh, absolutely. Real-world case studies perfectly illustrate the commercial power of successfully navigating all of this.
Yeah, the two examples that always stand out to me are Apple and Dyson. I mean, think about the launch of the original iPhone. It completely revolutionized the entire smartphone industry. But trying to imagine building Apple's empire without their patent portfolio in place is just mind-boggling.
It would have been impossible. Apple didn't just patent the broad concept of a touchscreen phone. If you actually look at their early patents, they secured hyper-specific utility claims on the mechanics of the user interface.
Like the pinch-to-zoom feature.
Exactly. They patented the heuristic, the specific algorithmic logic for determining whether a user's multi-finger gesture was intended to, say, scroll down a page or pan across an image.
Wow.
Because they locked down those very specific functional claims, the day after the iPhone launch, competing tech companies couldn't just flood the market with identical smooth-scrolling clones.
Because they would be stepping inside the fence.
Right. Android manufacturers had to spend years and millions of dollars engineering clunkier workarounds just to avoid infringing on Apple's claims. Those patents bought Apple the exclusivity to establish a brand dominance that they still leverage today.
It's the ultimate example of the VIP bouncer keeping the riffraff out. But honestly, the Dyson example fascinates me even more. It's just wild to me that a vacuum cleaner company could disrupt and dominate a global market simply because they successfully protected the specific way air spins inside a plastic tube.
James Dyson's story is a masterclass in the power of a utility patent, because he didn't invent the vacuum cleaner, and he didn't even invent the concept of cyclonic separation.
Wait, really?
No, sawmills had been using massive cyclones to separate sawdust for decades before he came along.
So how did he get the patent? Wouldn't the sawmill cyclones be considered prior art?
They absolutely were prior art. But Dyson didn't claim the broad concept of a cyclone. He drafted specific, mathematically precise claims about scaling down that technology. He claimed the specific geometry of a dual cyclone chamber and the exact air velocity required to separate microscopic dust particles without a bag.
So it was the specific application of it.
Yes. It was highly non-obvious to scale industrial sawmill technology down to a household appliance. Once he secured those claims, legacy vacuum brands that had dominated the market for a century were just paralyzed. They couldn't replicate his bagless efficiency without stepping inside his legal fence.
But this raises a massive reality check. Because even with Dyson's brilliant patents, competitors absolutely tried to copy him. And that brings us to the harsh truth about what happens the day after your patent is granted. Because the government isn't going to police your patent for you, are they?
No, they are not. This raises an important question that a lot of first-time inventors get wrong. Securing the patent, getting that official document with the ribbon and the seal is not the finish line.
It's just the beginning.
It is a starting gun. A patent is not a magic shield that naturally repels competitors. It is a sword. And it is only as effective as the inventor's willingness and financial ability to swing it.
So there is no patent police force roaming the aisles of those 150 retailers, making sure no one is copying your cyclone technology.
You have to be the police. The burden is entirely on the patent holder to actively monitor the market, analyze competing products, and take swift legal action. If infringement occurs, you have to be the one to send the cease and desist letters or initiate the federal lawsuit.
And if you don't, what if a competitor infringes on your patent and you just, don't have the capital to fight them in court, or you just don't notice?
If you do nothing, you are essentially eroding your own legal moat. If you allow rampant infringement to occur without challenging it, courts may eventually view your patent as abandoned or unenforceable. Protecting your market share requires constant vigilance.
It's a massive responsibility. It really highlights why launching a physical product into major retail channels is such a complex ecosystem. Creating a great product is one incredibly difficult discipline. Securing the precise legal boundary around it is another. And then actively policing it while managing relationships with hundreds of retail buyers is yet another.
Which is exactly why relying on channel management experts and specialized legal counsel is so heavily emphasized in the guide. You really don't want to build $1 million house and then rely on a discount padlock to secure the front door.
As we bring this deep dive to a close, I think the major takeaway for you listening is a massive shift in perspective. Navigating this patent process from that very first terrifying dive into the prior art search to surviving the intense negotiations over claims with the patent office, it is the ultimate way to protect your innovations.
It really is.
It is how you signal to real investors that your business is viable, and it is how you position a product for actual long-term survival on the shelves of major retailers. It is the literal mechanism that transforms a simple idea into an empire.
It absolutely provides the foundational architecture for commercial success in a highly competitive world. But as we look toward the future of innovation, there is a seismic shift occurring that builds on the very legal concepts we've dissected today.
Oh,
Yeah. We spent a lot of time discussing the rigorous human standard of non-obviousness and the person having ordinary skill in the art.
right, proving that an average engineer wouldn't just naturally assume to combine those two elements, like the toaster and the clock.
Exactly. But consider this. As artificial intelligence becomes deeply integrated into research and development, we are deploying systems capable of generating millions of new product designs, chemical compounds, and functional combinations at lightning speed.
Okay, AI is moving crazy fast.
And AI doesn't brainstorm the way we do. It systematically iterates through every single physical possibility.
Wow, okay. I see where you're going with this.
So the provocative thought I would leave you with is this. How will this centuries-old legal system adapt when the standard of ordinary skill is no longer human?
That is wild.
When an AI can iterate every possible combination of a mechanical concept in seconds, does everything suddenly become obvious to a machine? Or does every AI-generated permutation become uniquely novel? It challenges the very definition of what it means to invent something in the first place.
That is fascinating and honestly a little terrifying.
Yeah.
A machine inventor churning out millions of perfectly drafted patent claims. It's definitely something for you to ponder the next time you have a brilliant game-changing idea. Just remember, no matter how revolutionary your concept is or what the future of AI holds, just don't leave the kitchen door wide open. Keep your recipe safe. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.